Okay, in this video I'm going to be covering on our 4-head DTF printer the environment the printer should be in at all times and printing in as well, plus morning maintenance and end of day maintenance. So let's get started with the beginning of day maintenance. So let's get started with the environment that it should be in. So you shouldn't be running your printer, and it should be at all times in 22 degrees Celsius for heat, and for humidity it should be at 40% or plus. It should always be in that environment, especially for printing. So do not print if you are under 22 degrees Celsius or if your humidity is under 40%. So right now, some printers have the humidity reader on them, and some of them don't, and we have humidity readers as well for sale. Right now we're at 22.6 degrees Celsius and we're at 44%. So we are good to print, and it's in a comfortable environment right now. So your reading should always be at least 22 degrees and 40%. It shouldn't drop below that. And when printing especially, has to be over 40, has to be over 22 degrees Celsius together. Okay, so let's get started with morning maintenance. The first thing you're going to want to do is just check all your ink levels. Make sure that your ink levels are good. Make sure there's no air in the lines. Check your dampers. Make sure there's no leaks. There's no air in your lines. Okay, so after you've done that, then you hit cleaning. So there's two ways of doing it. The first thing you're going to want to do on this machine is make sure that your vacuum is on. So it's sucking down. I like to put it at about 7 on this machine. So it's holding the vacuum is holding your film down. And we can preheat now for printing if you want. You can turn on your heater and you can preheat now for printing. So from this point, you're going to want to do a normal cleaning or a cleaning. So you can either do that from the control panel on the printer or the PC. I'm going to show you both ways. So you can either just hit the cleaning button on here and let it do its cleaning, or you can come over to your PC, go over to your settings. You don't have to go to settings, it'll all be along here, but I like to go to settings just to make sure my margins are good for my nozzle check. We'll get into that in a second. So from here, we're gonna clean all 4 heads, normal. So we'll let that clean on normal, and then what we're gonna do is a nozzle check and see if we're good for printing. Okay, our cleaning's done, and now we're gonna wanna check, do a nozzle check. So again, you can either do it on your control panel and hit the nozzle check button, or you can come over to your PC and hit your check button here. And again, you're just going to want to make sure that it's good for printing. Your sidebars are in a good place. You're ready for your nozzle check. So then at that point, you hit check. And you let it do its nozzle check. If for some reason it's not moving when you hit nozzle check, you're going to want to go over to your settings, and you're going to want to make sure that your margins are either at 0, in between 0 and 20. Okay, so that you make sure that it gets onto your film. Okay, sometimes when you shut off the printer or something, or reset the system, it'll put your margins out of whack at about 800, sometimes 400. You just have to reset your margin back to 0 and it'll stay that way. Then from this point, once you check it, or once you set your margin, then you do your check. Again, you can check on the PC or do a nozzle check from your control panel on your printer. So we'll let it do its nozzle check. We're going to see how it looks. So it looks pretty good. A couple of air pockets there in our color and a little bit in the white. So all we do from this point is we just hit cleaning again, and we can do a week clean or just a cleaning from here. So you can either again hit cleaning from here or go over to your cleaning on your PC, all 4 heads, and just do a week cleaning. We want to clear up as many air pockets and get this as clean as we can before we start printing. Now, if you see reoccurring air pockets, or if there's a big mess of air and you just can't for some reason get rid of it, I'm going to show you a method that you can use to try to get rid of it as well. Okay, we're going to do another nozzle check just to see where we're at now. With these machines, the film doesn't move forward, so you're going to want to make sure you move it forward. See, I just printed completely over my old one. So just make sure that you either move the film forward, or you can save on film for your second one, and you can move it over to about 300 in your margins. Move it over to about 300, and then you can do a check again. And it should put it at about there for my check, so that way you're not wasting film. Either or. So here's my second check now. Okay. So a couple of breaks came in differently. So my first one was good there. It wasn't like the best, but it was there. It was better than this. My breaks there cleaned up. So now if you're getting lots of breaks that just continually come, that should go away with the next cleaning. But let's say that you just keep getting breaks and breaks. What you're going to want to do from this point is, let me just situate the camera. Okay, so before you call us to try to clean it up and see what the problem is, if there is lots of breaks, you can try our blue soap, flush, and print head cleaner. It's the cleaning solution we have now, and it breaks down a lot of it. So basically, it breaks down the clogs a lot. So basically what you want to do is you're going to want to move your head over to the left a little bit, so you can hit your left button here on your control panel. Just move your head over a little bit. Okay. You're going to want to expose the capping station. You go over to your sensor, block it. Okay. You're going to come onto the machine or PC, and you're going to load ink. So right here on the PC, you hit load ink, or you can come to your control panel, hit function, the function button, then go down to head maintenance, hit enter, go down, fill ink, enter, forehead all, enter. Okay, so now we're tricking it, and right now it's sucking out of the cap stations. What you want to do here is we're going to put some blue stuff in for a little bit and let it sit in there for a few minutes and see if that clears up the clogs. But we want to clear out our capping station first before we do that. So I'm just going to clean out the capping station with some water here. We just clear out the capping station. Just flushing it out, making sure the sponge inside is doesn't have any residue around the honeycomb here on your capping station. And we just want to keep putting water in there until it pretty much clears up. You're going to want to get yourself a squirt bottle. I use the old ink bottles that we have, and then I just sort of rinse them out and I use them as a squirt bottle. Because you want to give a little bit of pressure as you're squeezing in here. Not too much, because you don't want to spill outside of the capping station. We put paper towel around it, but there's a sensor under here. You definitely don't want to get wet, so you don't want to be going outside of it doing this. So again, just squeezing water into the station, trying to get rid of all of the ink residue that's in there. Okay, and once you've done that, then just grab a foam tip, rinse it off, and kind of wipe any ink that's around the capping station itself. Just wipe it off. Wipe it off. Rinse off the ink in between, and you wipe your blades quick. Get that off, any residue on your blades. Give it a quick moisturizing. So rinse off your foam tip, fill it up with moisturizer, and then just moisturize your blades. And moisturize around the rubber, around the top of the caps. Just make sure it's nice and moisturized for your heads and no ink residue is left there. Okay? So once you get that done, you can come over here, stop your loading by hitting clear data, and then hit function. It'll bring you back to your regular status. Then you come over here, remove your sensor. So make sure that's removed before you hit base point. So now we're gonna put our, so first we're going to, before we do that, of course, we're gonna put the blue stuff. So I like to put it in a syringe with a little bit of hose attached to it, and that way you can squeeze them into the capping stations nice and easy. If you try to pour from the bottle, sometimes it makes a mess all over the station. So our problem is in our white. So I'm gonna put a little bit, again, not overflowing it, just filling it up enough to cover the honeycomb. So I'm putting blue in here. Okay, and now I'm gonna moisturize my other heads, but they're good. So I don't need to put any blue in it, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some moisturizer in it so that they're still staying moisturized. So basically wet capping with the moisturizer and wet capping with blue. Okay, if they both need it, put blue in all of them, okay? Just use your blue accordingly. So then once you have that done, you have your blue in and your moisturizer, or all blue in, whatever's required. You're gonna wanna wet cap that for about half an hour. So you're gonna wanna hit base point. Again, just making sure that your sensor is clear. At this point, hit base point. And then let it sit capped for a bit, about half an hour. And then we can come back, do a cleaning, and then another nozzle check and see if we're good to print. Okay, so after you've soaked for about half an hour, you go clean. So just make sure you hit the clean button. I've already done it, so you do a cleaning, and then you hit nozzle check. And just make sure that your heads are good for printing. If there's not, if it's good and it's enough for printing, then you're good to go. So let's take a look at this one. So this one came out nice and clean now. I've got very little breaks, I mean very little. Couple in blue. I'm gonna give it one more week cleaning, but aside from that, she is good to go. So that is your morning routine. Again, just make sure that you're checking around, your ink levels are good, that your film and everything is all good and ready to print. Nothing is in the way. Checking the lines for any air or leaks. If you don't have that, hit clean, then you're good. After your cleaning, hit nozzle check, see where you're at, and then go from there. Okay, here's your end of day maintenance. So now that we've finished printing, we're done for the day. What you're gonna start off by doing is hitting the clean button. Do a normal cleaning or just the cleaning button off of your printer. So just hit clean. Let it do a cleaning. And then what we're gonna do is bring the head, after it's done cleaning, all the way over to the cleaning bay there for your print heads. So we'll let it clean and then we'll come back to that. Okay, so cleaning's done. So you're either gonna come over to your control panel on your printer, or you can hit the left on here on your PC, and we're gonna move the head all the way over to the left into our working station, our cleaning bay for our head. So we'll just move that over to the left. Okay, so you leave that there. Then from this point, you're gonna wanna grab something to block your sensor. Piece of paper, something folded up nice and thin, and you have a sensor just above your capping station here. So you go over to your sensor and you just put something in between it there to block it, okay? And what that's doing is it's tricking your printer head. So what we're gonna start off by doing is flushing out our capping stations. So there's a sponge inside the capping station, and we're gonna clear that of all ink residue and just try to get that as cleared up as much as we can. So that's what you start off by doing, is flushing your capping stations. So now that you've blocked the sensor, you're ready to do what's called fill ink. So you can either do it on your PC, you come over to settings, and then you could hit load ink here, and it will start to try to load the ink. Or you could come up to your control panel and you can hit function, then you go down, press the down button until you hit head maintenance, hit enter, go down to fill ink, enter, and then forehead all, enter. And now your head's tricked, so it's not going to move, and it's just going to continually suck from the capping stations. So make sure you have a water jug with water. Again, you're just putting water and pressing it in there without spilling over it. A little bit of pressure, and you're just cleaning out the capping stations. So we're flushing them out right now so that the sponge inside, once we wet cap, there's no ink residue sitting in it as well while it's wet capping. It's just in the moisturizer with no ink residue. So again, just squeezing regular water into here, clearing them out. Make sure that your waste bin has enough space in it. It doesn't get full. Always check your waste bin before you start this, just to make sure, because when you are doing this, quite a bit goes in there. So it has a little pause in between. So what I like to do is I'll fill the capping stations before it goes up again and just see if there's any residue left. And of course, if there is residue, which there was in these two, I'm just going to give it a little extra. You just kind of keep on filling it with water and squeezing down, not too hard again where you're getting it outside of the capping station. We've got a sensor and stuff down there. We don't want to get that wet. So again, just continually putting the water in. As you're squeezing, you can sort of see residue left if you look. As you can kind of squeeze down a little bit on the capping station. Don't press down on it hard. Just give it a little squeeze down, and you can still see if there's any residue that way as well. Just squeezing down a little bit on each side. Just see if there's any residue. It looks like we're clear of ink. So again, the capping station pauses for a minute. I fill it up. So now we have no residue sitting in there, so our capping stations are flushed out and clean. We can stop that process now by hitting, either going on your PC and saying stop load, or come onto your controls and hit clear data, and then hit function to return to your status, your beginning status there. Okay, so now we have these flushed out, and now what we want to do is we want to clean all of our wiper blades, and we want to clean around the capping stations, all the rubber, and around the outside of the capping station as well, of any ink. So I'm going to switch angles and we'll get to that. Okay guys, so now that you have your capping stations flushed out, we're going to want to take some foam tips, and you're going to want to have them rinsed in water, some distilled water, squeeze them out. Not too much, just don't have them soaking. And then we want to wipe our wiper blades. We want to clean those off first. So we give our wiper blades a nice cleaning. In between, you might have to rinse it. Rinse your foam tip. Just give it a rinse. Squeeze it out. And then keep on wiping those blades and everything until all the ink is gone. Again, in between, rinsing your foam tip in the water and squeezing it out. We're going to take all the ink off of here, any residue around the capping stations. Sometimes it's dry and you got to give it a little scrub in there to get that out, and then you just take out the little flakes that are there of dry ink. Even around the rubber, sometimes you got to give it a little rub. Just make sure you're getting all of the ink out of there. You go around all 4 capping stations. Make sure you're getting all the ink from around there on the rubber. Get that off. You have ink around the sides of it. On the sides, just get all sides. Wipe the sides down. Make sure there's no ink in there. The more important part is the rubber, but you want to be clean all around your capping station. Okay, just give it a nice wipe around. Again, in between, I'm rinsing my foam tip of all the ink that I'm collecting now. Pretty much after every capping station, I'll give it a rinse and a wring. And then I'll wipe out the outsides. And now that we have our outsides wiped, our rubber ring is good, and our wiper blades are cleaned. What you're going to do from that point is take a new foam tip. Okay, if it's in the water, rinse it off good, completely rinse it off. Get it dry, or at least all the water out. Take your moisturizer, and you're gonna want to fill the foam tip with moisturizer, not overflowing, just enough to fill it up. And then once you have your foam tip full of moisturizer, moisturize your blades. And you're also going to want to moisturize the rubber that is around your station here. All around the capping station. The rubber. Just give it a nice little moisturizer. Get it nice and moist. Okay, and once you have your blades and around your capping stations moist, from that point you're going to want to take your moisturizer squeeze bottle, and now you're not going to want to go all the way up and overflow it. You basically just want to cover the bottom enough to cover that honeycomb, so just to get it in there and don't have it overflowing. So just pour it in nice and slow and get it where it just covers the honeycomb at the bottom. You don't have to go crazy and fill it up to the top. Definitely don't let it overflow. Okay, just enough to cover those honeycomb at the bottom. Okay, and now once it's like that, we are ready for wet capping our printer head. But before we do that, we have to clean our printer head. So let's move over to cleaning our printer head, and then we'll get to wet capping. Okay guys, here's underneath in the printing workstation, the cleaning bay. So what you're going to want to start off by doing is getting the cracks in between all of the heads. So what you're going to want to start off by doing is soaking a moisturizer foam tip with moisturizer. And once it's soaked, I usually start at the back and work my way to the front. So I clean in between and the cracks of all of the heads. So I'll do one stroke, I'll flip the tip, I'll give it another one, and now it's full of ink. I'll rinse that off and put more moisturizer in it. And then I'll move on to my next head. And I'll go straight down here,
flipping it. If not a lot of ink goes on it, you don't have to worry about it, but if I'm moving to the white with the same foam tip, I don't want any color on it, so I'm going to rinse that out. Now I'm going to move on to my whites. Press straight along, flip it straight along, again, straight along, flip it straight along, rinse it, more moisturizer. And now once you've done those sides, you can come along and do the cracks along this side, or you could do all four at once if you want. So you can go one across here, then go to the back and get across here. Again, on this one, across the back and up at the front. And I'll rinse it, move to my white, go along the crack on the side, here, here, and here. If you touch your head by accident, as long as you're not pressing hard, just nice and lightly along here. If it touches, you're full of moisturizer, it shouldn't affect it, but just try to avoid your head as much as you can. Do not touch it. So now we've cleaned the cracks. And then what we do from this point is another rinsing, moisturize, and then you want to clean along these protector little bars here for your head. So you just kind of give a press along it. You could give some fairly good pressure along these just to give them a good cleaning, because they do collect pretty much the most ink and they will need a little pressing on. So now you can clean these with either the foam tip, or if you have clean room wipes, you can use those as well. We have those on our website for sale as well. So you can grab a bag of clean room wipes and wipe. I'll show you that as well as soon as I'm done this with the foam tip. So again, just moving along. And once you get all these cleaned, and you want to rinse it of any ink that's on it, put more moisturizer, and then with a foam tip, you want to come along and just make sure that you're cleaning all of the gray off. And as you're going, your foam tip's going to collect ink. So when it collects too much, just stop, rinse it off, more moisturizer, and then carry on. Here you could just give a nice wipe. Again, get in between them as well, watching you don't touch the heads, and you want to get in behind the head as well. So just get in behind there, and again, getting all along here, and same with this side as well. Okay, now you can use either the foam tip, or I'm going to show you with our our clean room wipes. I fold it into four, and then I soak it and rinse. I soak it with moisturizer, and I make sure the entirety of it is soaked with moisturizer, and then I rinse it out so it's nice and moist with moisturizer. And then I'll just come along, and you could just apply a bit of pressure, just don't touch the heads, and then just wipe along here, straight along the center, wipe down the back. You can kind of fold it in a way where it doesn't touch the heads, and you could sort of come in between and get in between the heads, come up the center. Again, if there's too much, just fold this a different way. If you're getting lots of ink on it, come up the center, around the front, down the one side, watch your head, come across the middle of the heads, move back down, and then come across here and right up the back. Now when you have the moisturizing clean room wipe on this, with the foam tip you can put a bit of pressure. Just make sure when you're wiping it that you don't have a lot, you have it kind of folded one way where there's not a lot overlapping onto the head, so that when you press and clean these, your cloth and stuff isn't touching the heads. And you give a bit of pressure and just give them a nice wipe like that. You'll have a bit of ink. Just move it down a little bit to a clean spot, and then give your next one a wipe right along. And that's how you'll clean those. And again, once you get all the ink cleaned out from under here and it's all wiped up, okay, some of the ink stains on here. You can still scrub it off, but just make sure it's definitely all of the loose ink and everything, and as much ink as you can, get it off. Make it as clean as you can. And once that's done, now you're basically ready for wet capping. Okay, so your head's clean, capping station is clean, ready for wet capping. What you're going to want to do from this point is go over to your sensor, make sure that you unblock it. Unblock the sensor, come back over, make sure the way is clear. We're good to return to base. All you do from that point is either on your PC, you can hit X reset, or on the control panel, hit nozzle, or base point. So hit base point on your control panel. It'll move your capping station down, your head will return to base, and it is wet capped until you're ready to print again. And that is your night routine, or for when you're done printing for the day. That is the routine or the procedure that you want to go through. And that's it. That's your night routine. Thanks for watching.